It's a big story unfolding this afternoon. Our political editor Andrew Clennell has been out in front of it all day today, Andrew, off the back of that book by Simon Benson and Jeff Chambers. And this morning you confirmed a number of things, including that the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, is taking all of this very seriously.
He is indeed, Kieran. As Sky News revealed this morning, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese will this afternoon receive a briefing from the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet on the legality and consequences of revelations his predecessor, Scott Morrison, secretly swore himself into several ministerial portfolios in office so he could take decisions that he could not make as PM. And my tip on this is we may see a specific inquiry into this announced by Anthony Albanese tomorrow. As we also revealed this morning, former Government Senate leader Matthias Cormann had no idea that Scott Morrison had sworn himself in as Finance Minister while Cormann was Finance Minister during the pandemic in 2020. Anthony Albanese today described what had occurred as a, quote, shadow government and weird.
This is extraordinary and unprecedented. Australians knew during the election campaign that I was running a shadow ministry. What they didn't know was that Scott Morrison was running a shadow government that was operating in the shadows. How is it that the Australian people can be misled, whereby we know now that Scott Morrison was not only being Prime Minister, but was Minister for Health, was Minister for Industry and Science at the same time as Resources, was the Minister for Finance. And we have the extraordinary revelation that Matthias Cormann apparently wasn't aware that Scott Morrison was the Minister for Finance as well as himself. In Australia, we have a Westminster system of government that produces accountability. This is a sort of tin pot activity that we would ridicule if it was in a non-democratic country. There was an obligation upon the Prime Minister at that point in time, if not beforehand, to actually reveal what the arrangements were. This isn't some, local footy club. This is the government of Australia. It is unbecoming, it was cynical, and it was just weird that this has occurred.
Perhaps even more startlingly, Resources Minister Keith Pitt and National, who will be interviewed by Kieran shortly, also had Scott Morrison shadow him in his portfolio, initially without his knowledge. And it was in this capacity Scott Morrison knocked off the PEP 11 gas project off the New South Wales Central Coast, which the former PM boasted about publicly last December. Now, when it comes to approvals for resources projects under law, the Minister often has the final say and only say on projects. For instance, Tanya Plibersek, as Environment Minister, has recently said she is looking to block a coal project near the Great Barrier Reef. She has the power to do this, not the PM. Hence the need Morrison perhaps felt for him to take on the portfolio himself. Here is Scott Morrison in December last year saying that he had the authority to stop the PEP 11 gas project off the New South Wales Central Coast, a project set to impact his friend Lucy Wicks in the seat of Robertson, and the wife of one of Morrison's closest staffers, Julian Limbruggen, Brooke Vitnell, who was running for the seat of Paterson.
This isn't about being for or against the resources industry. This is about making a sensible, practical, balanced decision. It's the decision of the government, and I decided to take the decision as the Prime Minister, which I'm authorised to do.
Was asking about PEP 11 in Parliament. Shouldn't the PM have fessed up then that he was the relevant minister?
We asked questions in the Parliament about the PEP 11 project to the Minister for Resources. There was an obligation upon the Prime Minister at that point in time, if not beforehand, to actually reveal what the arrangements were. This was a centralisation of power by the former Prime Minister, and the former Prime Minister should be held accountable for his actions as well as the actions of other members of his government.
Well, the Australian's Jeff Chambers revealed this morning that in April last year, 8 months ahead of that decision, Scott Morrison got the Governor-General to put him in charge of the entire Department of Industry, Science and Resources. Some more questions to answer there, the chief one being why? Here is the section in the book Plagued by Simon Benson and Jeff Chambers, which first revealed these arrangements around health and finance. This intervention never involved the Governor-General swearing Morrison in publicly. It was never announced. Benson and Chambers write, Morrison then hatched a radical and until now secret plan with Attorney-General Christian Porter's approval. He would swear himself in as Health Minister alongside Hunt. Such a move was without precedent, let alone being done in secret, but the trio saw it as an elegant solution to the problem they were trying to solve, safeguarding against any one minister having absolute power. Porter advised it could be done through an administrative instrument and didn't need appointment by the Governor-General, with no constitutional barrier to having two ministers appointed to administer the same portfolio. Not many Australians would know about that. I trust you, mate, Morrison told Hunt, but I'm swearing myself in as Health Minister too. It would also be useful, the authors write, if one of them caught COVID and became incapacitated. Hunt not only accepted the measure, but welcomed it. And they go on, the authors, considering the economic measures the government was taking and the significant fiscal implications of debt that had been incurred, Morrison also swore himself in as Finance Minister alongside Cormann. He wanted to ensure there were two people who had their hands on the purse strings. But as I revealed this morning, Matthias Cormann was kept in the dark on this arrangement. My understanding is the first he knew about it was when it appeared in The Australian in a book extract on the weekend. Cormann's understanding is the instrument was never used by Morrison, but he and others must be baffled as to why Scott Morrison sought these powers under cover of COVID when acting ministers were also available if people caught COVID. Anthony Albanese has said he will have more to say on this tomorrow in Canberra. I'm tipping an inquiry. Under the Westminster system, it is traditional for new ministerial arrangements to be announced, even if someone is off sick or travelling. I think we can expect a more proper and full inquiry. I was contacted by a Morrison supporter to say that Albanese will be seeking advice from the same officials in Prime Minister and Cabinet who said it was okay for Morrison to do this. I've been told one senior official was involved, but one key position has changed since then, the position of Secretary of the Department. It's gone from former Morrison Chief of Staff, Phil Gaetjens, to Clint Davis. And now we have this statement from the Governor-General. It says the Governor-General, acting on the advice of the government of the day, appointed former Prime Minister Morrison to administer portfolios other than the Department of the Prime Minister and Cabinet. The appointments were made consistent with Section 64 of the Constitution. These appointments do not require a swearing-in ceremony. The Governor-General signs an administrative instrument on the advice of the Prime Minister. Questions around appointments of this nature are a matter for the government of the day and the department, he says. Similarly, the decision whether to publicise appointments is a matter for the government of the day.
Now, Andrew, given the extraordinary statements by the Prime Minister in his concern around the developments, I offered a right of reply to the former Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, earlier in the day to say, do you want to reply to Anthony Albanese? He said, no, haven't seen what he has said. Since leaving the job, I haven't engaged in any day-to-day politics. That's what he replied to me today, Andrew. Do you think it's inevitable, though, at some point the former PM will have to say something?
He'll have to put out a statement at the very least to justify his actions. It looks like he's volunteered it to the authors of Plagued. So why can he not furnish us with more details on why he acted in this fashion, and particularly if an inquiry is announced? Now, Scott Morrison has said to you there, Kieran, he's not engaged in day-to-day politics. I might remind him he's still in the Parliament and paid by the taxpayer as we speak.
And there's also that question about ministerial arrangements when they're put to Parliament. Why weren't these alterations, as you touched on earlier, amended? I'm speaking to Keith Pitt, as you mentioned, in just a few moments. Also, a bit later, Barnaby Joyce.